everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in Zone 5B in mid-Michigan. And right now it is pouring rain out like cats and dogs, and it is puddling everywhere because we have plenty of moisture already in our soil. At least the ground's not frozen though, so it does have some place to go. So today, what are we going to do indoors? Well, it's that time to start thinking about planting tomatoes and some other things that need some time to grow on or can take some time to grow on before we plant them out in the garden. And I finally have a little bit more room because we planted those violas outside, and that just frees up a little bit more space. Now, I did start some lettuce seeds, and we'll bring you in a little closer so you can see what I've got going after we get these other things planted. So today I wanted to show you something that the next gardener sent out to me. They actually sent these out to me last fall, and I was unable to use them because basically I got them at a time when I either had to use them or I had to wait until spring, and I just ran out of time to be able to use them last fall. So I'm excited to show you this. These are 13 packets of organic seeds. And the cool thing is, I don't know if you recall, but I started using some of those bamboo plant labels, and they work all right, but they're not great inside the humidity dome at first. And these actually come with enough little plant labels to go with the seeds, and these are plastic and reusable, so that's fantastic. In addition to that, it comes with this cute little growing guide, and it helps to explain each one of the type of heirloom vegetable seeds that are in here, and there's 13 different varieties. So this one, we're not going to plant them all today, but just so you know, these come with, let's see, we have carrots, we have tomatoes, we have lettuce, beets, onions, pumpkin, squash, broccoli, spinach, peas, cucumber, radish, and arugula. So all sorts of great things. It talks a little bit about pests and disease within the little pamphlet that comes with it. It also talks about how to grow them and how to harvest them, and so it's really pretty cool. I've never actually seen something like this before come with seeds, so yeah, that's pretty neat because you can kind of save this and use it if you get some other seeds as well or run out of these and have some from a different company. They should be fairly similar in terms of the growth. So let me show you how the seed packets come as well. The seed packets are in this reusable Ziploc baggie. They do then come in these little packets, and they have the little name on the packet. The thing about these is you'll want to make sure to fold them over if you don't reuse all of them, and just make sure that you put a piece of tape or something like that, a paper clip or something like that, to ensure that they stay nice and fresh. So these happen to be Snow Oregon sugar peas. I'm excited about that because I am going to be planting peas out in the garden. This is a great time to get your peas started. You can start them indoors, but right now we're at the point where you can probably work the soil outside, at least in some areas. If you can't, then you do have to start them inside, but in our area at this point the ground is workable, so I will probably be planting these outside in the next couple of days. And I just love peas. They're one of those things that as you grow them, you go out in the garden and you see them and they're starting to grow and you just start snacking on them, and I hardly ever get enough to actually bring in because of that. Alright, so it has a really nice resealable bag that you can keep with it, and then they also sent out to me, this amazing mix of professional grower soil mix imported from Denmark. This is a peat-based potting mix or soil mix. It has a 75% substrate, 25% perlite with low fertilizer, so it's perfect for seedlings. And again, these are from the next gardener. And this is 12 quarts. So great that they sent that out to me. We'll open that and use some of that right now so I can show you what that looks like. So this soil looks really nice and light and fluffy, and does have a nice amount of perlite in it for good drainage. So I'm just going to pour some of that down into my bin here. And then the cool thing about this is that it also is resealable as like a Ziploc bag. And so can help it to stay good over time. I'm just going to moisten that soil down. A lot of you asked me about this battery operated sprayer. This is rechargeable. It's fantastic. I love using it for my seedlings. Okay, so we're just going to fill up this tray. We're going to use the sides here. And I'm going to mix, there's a little bit of soil in a couple of these trays. Make sure that that's moist. And then we'll fill these up. And it won't be long, these lettuce seeds that I have already growing in here are probably going to be able to be put out in the garden soon. Probably in the next, I'd say about a week. They'll be big enough that I can start taking them outside, pot them up into a little bit bigger pot, take them into my little mini greenhouse cold frame, where they can get even more sunlight than just, you know, the grow lights that we have. Because grow lights are great and everything, but they, at least mine, are not super powerful, so they don't really replace actual sunlight 100%. I'm going to do my best not to grow too many like tomatoes because they take up so much space, but I do have a few friends and family members who often like to have them. So I do grow some extras just to make sure that I have plenty for myself in case some do not germinate or have problem. And then I also grow a few just for friends and family also. They don't usually tell me that they want them, but when I offer them up, they're usually pretty quick to say that they'd be happy to have some. So we are going to start with some Good-Hearted tomatoes. These are by Proven Winners. These are more of like a snacking tomato rather than a slicing tomato. They call them a cocktail tomato. It's a very small tomato plant, 8 to 12 inches tall, so it's perfect for containers if you don't have a nice space to grow these in. So I'm probably just going to grow 3 of these. And let me make a quick label for that. And I think for these, I'm just going to utilize the front 3 little areas here, and we'll grow whatever seeds I have left because these were from last year. So 1, 2, 3 in that one. 1, 2, 3. And then we have 4 left, so we'll put 4 in this one. Just press those in a bit. Cover them with a little bit of soil. And after we're all done, I do like to just kind of dust things with vermiculite, which really helps with keeping the algae down for me. And it helps with keeping that top layer of soil moist. You can see, I don't know if you can tell, but over here I missed some spots with the vermiculite. It was a little too light, so it definitely is getting some algae over there. Okay, next up we are going to plant some really fun ones. These are the Early Girl. These are a hybrid tomato, and they They germinate in like 7 to 10 days, so they're fairly quick at germinating. And one of the things that's nice about these is that they're one of the earliest tomato plants to be able to begin fruiting, so you can get a harvest sooner. And it can be an opportunity to be able to have a nice slicing tomato a little earlier on in the season. I'm going to plant a row of 3 of these as well, with 2 seeds in each one, if I can get them out of the packet. There we go. And these actually appear to be a pelleted seed, and these probably could be grown in a container. These only take about 52 days according to the package to get to harvest. So that is pretty quick. Some can take as long as like 90 days. These are an indeterminate variety though, which means that they do continue to grow. They don't just stop after they begin fruiting. Alright, we're going to cover these up as well, and then I forgot to make a label, so I'm going to have to make one. There we go. And in case you're wondering, this tray actually did this, I don't even know what you call these, cell tray? It's a cell tray, I think. This cell tray was also sent to me by the next gardener, and I like how many of the cells are in this. I think it's probably 72, but they have all sorts of varieties of that as well. Alright, and the final tomato that we're going to plant this year is from Johnny's Select Seeds, and this one is the Big Beef Plus F1. Last year was such a horrible tomato year for me. I think it was just the year. I heard a lot of other gardeners say the exact same thing. Like the way that the climate was last year just was not amenable to them growing well. This one is also a very large plant. I'm going to plant 2 seeds per cell of this one as well, so that's just like 6 seeds. And this one is 72 days to beginning harvest. And I believe this one is also an indeterminate plant, so this one should get fairly big. I have grown beefsteak tomatoes before, and they're one of the largest plants and one of the largest tomatoes. So keep that in mind when you're looking at tomato seeds. You want to make sure that you have plenty of room to grow them. If you get the big ones, they will shade out some of your smaller plants as well. Alright, next up is not a vegetable today. We are going to plant some Statice. So I got this from Botanical Interests, and it looks like a beautiful color. So I've never grown Statice before. If you have, tell me if you have any particular tips for it. Okay, they sent them in this nice little packet. And let's see what these seeds look like. Oh, teeny tiny, okay. This is how I wound up with so many lobelia plants. So I'm just going to dust a few in here, because if these grow the same way as those lobelias did, I could end up with quite a few. We're just going to lightly press these into the top of the soil. I didn't even read the instructions, but usually when they're super small like this, that's the best way to sow, is right on top of the soil. Make sure they get pressed in so that they have enough contact with the soil. Now let's see what the instructions actually say and see if I did it right. Light aids the germination, so sow shallowly. So that's what we did. So that should work out pretty good. All right, let's just make a quick label for that as well. And what we're going to do now is we'll mist the top of this, and then we'll put some vermiculite on and then mist it one more time. And when I'm doing this misting, I usually have my mister on a very fine setting, just so I don't disturb the seeds or the soil. It's just really to help kind of them settle in. Then we have our peanut butter chocolate vermiculite. Just kidding. Shop at Costco, sometimes you get lots of these jars around, and I like to reuse plastic things if possible. I like to make sure that all of the soil is covered in each cell, because as I just was talking about, like, the algae can become an issue if it's not covered or if it's too thin. And vermiculite does a good job of reflecting the light back down onto the soil because it's super shiny. All right, let's give that one more mist in, and then we should be done with this seed sowing. Because I'm at home right now and I'm not going on any vacations or anything, I'm really not too worried about putting a humidity dome over these for them to germinate. Tomatoes germinate really easily. So I'm going to leave it off because these lettuce seedlings have already begun germinating, as you can see, and we're getting lots of good growth. My favorite that I have planted here is the butter crunch lettuce, and that's looking really good. I've never planted pelleted seeds before. These were pelleted, but they seem to be growing really well. I probably am going to try to do some succession planting of those, so additional seeding in a couple of weeks, just to ensure that as the season progresses that I continue to have plenty. I am also growing romaine lettuce, white Paris lettuce, iceberg lettuce, which I have never grown, igloo lettuce, and a little gem lettuce. And the little gem lettuce actually looks quite a bit like the butter crunch, and I just love having fresh lettuce in the summer to make salads out of, so that's going to be really great. All right, I want to show you a little update on some of the other plants and how they're doing so far. So these are my lobelia, the Cambridge blue variety that I showed you before, and I have now pricked them out and divided them, but I anticipate that they are going to need to be divided even further in probably a couple more weeks and potted up into a pot about this size. My final ranunculus that I did not think was growing has actually popped through the soil, so I guess he was just a little slow and has begun to catch up to his counterparts. And the same thing goes for the little teeny tiny geranium that I have. He's just a little behind, but he's doing great now. Our geraniums are looking really good. They're continuing to grow on quite well. The leaves are very large and healthy, and I'm super excited to have as many of these as I do. And I'm hoping to try the overwintering in paper bags this winter if I like these geraniums, to try to keep them for next year. Tell me if you've ever tried that and how well that worked for you. I'm interested especially in people who kind of live in a similar area to me. So in this tray, I don't know if you can tell, but we have some dahlias down in here, and they are starting to put on some new growth. I can see little tiny red spots, which is the color of the leaves when they initially start to come out from the eyes of the dahlias. And if you haven't, definitely check on your dahlias and see how the tubers are doing if you stored them over the winter, and get them potted up so that you can begin to get them growing on. Here's a quick update on what I have going on with the cannas. They are still growing on nicely, but slowly, which is perfect. Just what I was hoping. I'm going to give you a good look at these little seedlings. They are very slow growing, but I have quite a few of them and I'm so excited about it. These are the Rose Valley Pieris. These are a nice little evergreen shrub that has beautiful flowers on it in the very late winter, early spring, and the buds are on the bush all winter long and provide a beautiful form of winter interest. So I'm pretty psyched about how far along these have come so far, that they haven't died off or that I haven't killed them. And I think probably in a couple weeks I'm going to kind of prick these out as well and pot them up into a little bit bigger individual cell tray. So something more along the lines of what we have the lobelia in. I'll find a small tray for that. So if you haven't grabbed your elephant ears out of storage yet, it's a great time to make sure you're doing that so they can get a good start on the season, especially if you're in a cold area like me. I'm starting to see some nice new growth on this. It's really starting to, take, and I think that's going to make it great. It's going to give it a good start. And these were stored over the winter time. I have 3 of them. And so far so good. They all look like they're going to perform for me. So they take such a long time to wake up though. It's always kind of painful and waiting for it, being patient. The last thing I want to show you today is this little seedling. I'm wondering if any of you can help me identify it. I believe this is a pink gomphrena. Now I've never grown gomphrena. I did try to do some seedlings last year and they all pretty much died, but this was a little volunteer plant that began to grow in one of my seed trays. Again, because I reuse my seed trays and I don't necessarily really sterilize them every year. You guys are probably going to come after me about that, but I don't. And so this one came up and I thought I would save it and see how it did, and that's what I think it is. So let me know if you know what it is. Well, everybody, thanks so much for joining me today inside to get some new plants started. I'm really excited for the growing season and that spring is upon us, and I can't wait to get some of these outside. It's coming soon. Thanks again and see you next time. Bye!